Hilchos Melochim Perek Hey Halacha Yud. Vidyav Chacham, the Rambam says the great wise sages Haymanashkin al Tchumei Eretz Yisrael. They would kiss the borders of Eretz Yisrael, Nashkin Avoneo. They would kiss its stones. What are the Peirush? The great sages, when they came to Israel, they would kiss the borders and the stones. Misgalgalan al aforan, they would roll in its dust. Which is we find in Tillim 102, verse 15. Because your servants desired its stones, vesaforo, and its dust, yichoinenu, they find pleasing. Kesef Mishnah cites Ksubis 112a. Abba Haymanashik keep the Akko. He would come and kiss the stones that were in Akko. Half of the city of Akko was inside Eretz Yisrael and half was outside. When he came from the half that was outside of Eretz Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael, he would kiss the stones. Therefore, it says they would kiss on the border. That's why it's referring to Akko. That was half of it was inside Eretz Yisrael, and rolling its dust. The Kesef Mishnah, the Lechem Mishnah, it's like Subis 112b. Apria Bagamdo, of Eretz Yisrael. He would roll in the dust of Eretz Yisrael, as it says, Ki Rotzo Avodeo Decho Es Avoneo Esaforo Yechinenu. Same passage. The Lechem Mishnah adds that Tosis in Subis 112. Cite a medicine Tanchuma, Parashat Shlach, that when Hanina HaGodol came from Bovel, he wanted to know if he had already reached the border of Israel, and once he found the stones were very heavy, he said, these are the stones of Israel, and he kissed them, and he said that posuk. The Pasach Shulchan explains that the stones of Akko is the border of Akko, and with a great love for Eretz Yisrael, they were able to come there. They kissed the border, and therefore the Rambam writes, "And you kiss the borders of Eretz Yisrael." And he cites Yerushalmi in Shvius chapter 6, Halacha Aleph, Halacha 1, that Kippur means the walls that surrounded the border of Israel. That's the Rambam learned that Abba kissed the border, but not the stones, as we find in the Tanchuma. Regarding Tosis, the Kesef Mishnah, that half of Akko was in Eretz Yisrael and half was outside, we should point out that the Rambam Hilchos Trumas says that Akko is considered outside of Eretz Yisrael, just as is Ashkelon. That's the opinion of the Rambam. We begin now, Perek Hey Halacha Yud Aleph, chapter 5, Halacha 11. Amar Hacham, the Hacham said, Kol Hashechem Be'eretz Yisrael, anyone who dwells in Israel, Avinoisa Machon, his sins are forgiven. Shenema, as it says, Ubal Yoma. See the Peirush. It says in Yeshayahu, Ubal Yoma, Shekein, Shochein Chalisi, the dweller of Eretz Yisrael will not say, I am sick. The people who dwell therein are free of sin. The Kesef Mishnah cites Ksubis 111a, statement of Abeliezer, or Abelozo. And Rashi explains that one who dwells in Eretz Yisrael should not be troubled to say, I am in pain, because sin is forgiven. Like the Baruch forgives them for their sins. The Lechem Mishnah adds that Rabbi said to Rav Ashi, the posuk is talking about that somebody who suffers troubles, not somebody who lives in Eretz Yisrael. But the Rambam says the halacha is like Abelozo, that the Amoraim that I mentioned there said great things about the praise of Israel, like Abelozo. We're talking about the praise of living in Israel. The Pasach Shulchan explains that the Gemara, it says everyone who dwells in Eretz Yisrael, meaning he doesn't have sin. The Rambam writes, who finds himself in Eretz Yisrael, like the posuk, and he comes to explain that by dwelling in Eretz Yisrael, which is acquired with torment, his sins are forgiven. And he recites Brochus 57a. Somebody who dreams that he is naked. In Bebobel, it means he doesn't have sin. In Yisrael, it means he has no mitzvahs. The Rashi explains what's the difference, because there is sin to those who live in Chutz La'aretz. So therefore, if you find yourself in a sense without clothing, it means without sin. But somebody who lives in Yisrael, we have a lot of mitzvahs such as Trumas and Maisos that have to do with Yisrael. The person sees himself without any covering, then it's proof that he doesn't have commandments. The Pasuk Shulchan proves from this that Yisrael, the sins are forgiven continuously, because he is bound and to do continuously those mitzvahs. And dwelling in Yisrael is also a mitzvah. Therefore, he can't explain in the dream that he's without any covering, only if he doesn't do mitzvahs, because every moment he has another mitzvah of being in Yisrael. The Sam Sofer infers from the language of the Gemara, he who dwells, that he has to establish his dwelling there. But somebody is there just temporarily as a passing through, he's not considered among those who dwell in Yisrael, that their sins are forgiven. And he learns this from, it says, and they shall not say that I am sick, meaning shochein, somebody who dwells there, he has his dwelling there. Rambam changed it, right? Somebody who finds himself in Yisrael, that he remains with the fact that he says somebody who lives in Yisrael, even when he leaves it, but his sins are forgiven only while he's dwelling there. Rambam continues, even if he went in it 4 amas, he gains a portion to the world to come. The Gassel Mishnah cites the Gemara in Subis 111a, the statement of Rabbi Yirmiyah Abba and the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Anyone who was buried in Yisrael in the scapula, it atones for him. Boy, it would seem that the place that where he is buried, Mizake Kapora, gives you the merit of atonement. Shenem, as it says in Devarim 32:43, V'chiper ad Mosei Amoi, and his earth shall atone for his nation. Uviveronius, and when it comes to punishment, it says in Amos, Al Admot Meo Tomus, that one of the curses were that you'll die in a strange land. Amos says those, the sin of Amatzio, who was a Navi Sheker, that even he won't merit even to die and be buried in Yisrael, because being in Yisrael atones for sin. But obviously there's no comparison between somebody who comes to Yisrael alive, the Godol come here after he dies, even though he's buried in Yisrael. Baal became even so the great wise men, they would bring their dead bodies to Yisrael. Learned it from Yaakov, who commanded Yosef HaTzadik, who commanded the people, the children of Israel. The Gassel Mishnah cites Ksubis. Ula would go up to Yisrael, but he passed away in Bovel. And when he said this to Abelezer, he said, Al Admos Tmei Tomus. They died outside of Yisrael in a land of defilement. So he said they should bring they brought his coffin to Yisrael. And the answer is not the same when it takes him in when he's alive as to when he takes him in when he's dead. The Gassel Mishnah also cites Moed Kotn, that Amorim that died in Bovel, they were brought up to burial in Yisrael. Maimonides cites the Yerushalmi, Rebbe Bar Kalyo, Rabbi they toured in the space between city to city, and they saw caskets of dead that came from outside of Eretz Yisrael to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. So Rabbi Barkaya said to Rabbi, what's the benefit from this, that they come after they're dead? I say on them the Posuk in Yirmiyahu, chapter 2, Posuk 7, Nach losing Samtum L'Se'evo, you have placed my inheritance as this abomination, that in your lifetime you didn't want to come to Israel, and you come and defile because there's too much mace after you die. So you said since they come to Israel, they would take a piece of earth and they would put it on the casket, and it says V'chipa ad Moshe Amar. This is a minhag that people have to bring Eretz Yisrael earth outside of it to be people who are buried in Chutz La'aretz. Like always, Maimonides says that's the minhag why they bring it from Eretz Yisrael earth to Chutz La'aretz. Hilchos Elvel, in the morning, the Rambam says in chapter 14, Halacha 15, that you can't take a person from place to place in order to bury him elsewhere. The Kesef Mishnah cites the Rambam, who permits to take somebody who's buried from outside of Eretz Yisrael to bring him up to Eretz Yisrael. Shulchan Aruch also agrees with this. The Shach explains that the earth of Eretz Yisrael atones, as it says, "V'chiper ad Moshe Amoy," and his earth shall atone for his nation. There are more sites that there are those who have the custom to place on the Eretz Yisrael in the place where the burial is taking place, and they have what to rely on. Peirush HaMeir, we are told that Avram purchased the Moetzes HaMachpelah, cave of the patriarchs. The Even Ezra says, and it tells us this. It tells us how great Eretz Yisrael is. We got more so than all the other lands, both for the living and for the dead. The Kafter of Ferach says that the sanctity of Eretz Yisrael regarding burying a dead person was from the very moment it was given to the forefathers, and not from when we conquered it, as we find in Shuvas Achsam Soifa. It doesn't talking about the parsha of the mitzvahs that have to do with Eretz Yisrael, only in that holiness that remains there forever. Go and learn from Yaakov Avinu. That's what the Rambam says in Yosef HaTzadik. In Parashat Vayechi, Yaakov made Yosef take an oath to bring him up to Eretz Yisrael. Rashi brings 3 reasons for this oath. The second reason is that those of dying in the Chutz La'aretz do not come to life right away, only after they come by rolling through catacombs under the ground. The Rambam is the opinion that the simple reason is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he wanted to be buried in Eretz Yisrael because of the greatness of Eretz Yisrael. Yosef HaTzadik also wanted this. In Ksubas it's brought down that they did not want to go through the catacombs. They wanted to be able to get up by Tchias HaMeis and the Korah.